From CBC Podcasts comes an intimate new audio drama.
Everyone feels the same way when we fall in love, right? But what if I'm a puzzle piece forged in such a dysfunctional factory that when I meet my perfect match, it's a disaster? How did I get here? I fell in love.
Asking for It. Available on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Asking for it.
Welcome to Nobody Told Me. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
We are so excited to welcome Alex Granato to the show as part of our Palm Beach Masters series. Alex is a professional show jumper who competes for the United States and has won more than 50 Grand Prix.
His top horse, Carlchen W, was just named US Equestrian Horse of the Week, and he's planning to make it to the World Cup finals this spring and then hopefully the Olympic shortlist for the Games this summer.
And on top of that, he is an amazing person with a huge heart, rescuing miniature horses in need through the Peeps Foundation, which he runs with his partner, Josh Dolan.
We had a great visit recently with Alex at his beautiful farm in Florida.
Alex, tell us a little bit about how you got into riding.
I just always had a big passion for horses. I didn't come from a really horse-oriented family. My mom did Western horses a little bit when I was a very young kid. I was 3, 4. And then because of an injury to her hand, got completely out of horses. But I was always interested in it. Cartoons, Disney movies. So just because I had a draw towards it, for my 9th birthday, she got my sister and myself English lessons at just a local beginner barn. And that was it for me. I did some other sports as a kid, soccer, a little bit of baseball, church basketball, but horses was just always where it was at. So from my first lesson, that was it.
And you had kind of a different way of coming to the top than a lot of young riders do. You didn't have as many opportunities as a lot of people have. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, growing up in Salt Lake City, there was really just a summer circuit for showing. It was very localized, not a lot of opportunities outside of the state. When I got a little older, I was probably 15, showed a little bit at Hits Arizona during the winter, like 2 weeks, I think. And then one time I got to go to the Colorado Horse Park back when it was still High Prairie. So I did that 1 or 2 weeks during the summer. But that was really it for my A circuit experience until I was about 17. And I was kind of at a point where I didn't know if I would stick with riding horses, even though I did love it. I didn't see where it was really going for me. I was starting to think of college and what was next. And that's when I actually had, for the first time, heard about the North American Young Riders. So I started working with a woman from Colorado. She was the chef to keep for the zone for that season. I went with her for the summer. I showed at Spruce Meadows for the first time, which I knew what it was. I always watched the big classes whenever I could find them on TV, but I never knew it was accessible to go and do different divisions other than, the meter 60. Mm-hmm. So I got some opportunities through that summer. I did the junior team. That was the first season they actually had added that into the North American Young Riders. So I did that at the end of the summer, and it re-sparked my passion for horses. It gave me more of a direction. That was between my junior and senior year of high school. So I left the horses in Colorado. I went home to start my senior year with the plan to try to be back and forth. I did the first few weeks of school. I went for a fall horse show in Colorado. And from that first horse show, I just realized there was no way I was going to be able to have the attention and the time to split between both. And my parents were great. I was playing a lot of catch up, not having a big junior career. So they said, if this is really what you want to do, we'll try to, at least emotionally, and if we can do anything financially to help you do it. So I left home. I moved to Colorado, lived with my trainer. I did my senior year of high school online and started really from there. So at 17, I was trying to find my way to the A circuit and to build my career from there.
How did you become a better rider? How did you go from from where you were when you first started and in your high school years to where you are now?
Really, I just think perseverance. I knew it's what I wanted. I obviously always had a dream and a passion. I wanted to compete for the team. I wanted to do Nations Cups. I wanted to do Grand Prix and better myself. And I've always had, I love the animals. I love the day-to-day work. But when I'm in the ring, I want to do well. So I think it was a constant drive to better myself. Even if you have a great round or a winning round, I'll still watch the videos now and think, well, what could I have done better? Where could I smooth out? Where could I have done better for my horse to make it easier? So I really just think it's a drive to continuously want better.
Do you think that's just an innate thing that you have, or do you think that's something that people in any facet of life can work towards?
Oh, for sure. I think anybody with a passion for something, you obviously want to do well at it.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the horse industry, in the adult hunters, or being an engineer, you want to do well. You want to be the best, I think.
Right.
And in this sport, it's unique. I think anybody in any sport, you have a drive to win. That's why you're there. But you want to better yourself and find ways to do it quicker, faster, better, be the best. And in our industry, it's not just about ourselves. It's a partnership with an entirely other being, with this animal. They need to be peaking, we need to be peaking, and it needs to come together in a unique way. It's not like working with a basketball team member where you can talk, you can bounce things off of each other. You have to kind of read what the horse is giving you day to day and find a way to keep up with that. So I think it's an innate thing that anybody in a sport would have. It's a drive behind it, and it's how you want to forge it and use it to your advantage.
What are your riding goals for this year, and how is the Palm Beach Masters Series helping you get there?
Well, two things are my big goals for the year. I want to do World Cup finals. I have a couple good results from the fall, but I do need at least one more good result to really ensure a spot at the finals in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And the Palm Beach Masters has one of the World Cup qualifying events. But two, it's a really top horse show. They get great course designers in Alan Wade. They do a great job with the footing and the ring and the preparation and the atmosphere. So it's a great test event. The only downside for it being a World Cup qualifier is that it's not an indoor where the finals are, but it's a beautiful event, and my horse does really seem to like it. So it's our first big event for the season, and it's a wonderful one to use as your first big event. And then beyond that, I would love to have a shot at our Olympic short list. It's 2020, so we're in the Olympic year, and the first phase for our U.S. team, the first 4 have already been named to the short list. And so my sights are on the next couple steps and what I can best be doing through this winter season to peak my chances of getting onto the short list or being an option for the short list. And again, the Masters is a beautiful event, and it's a great stepping stone towards both of those goals.
And what do you have to do to get on the short list then at this point?
So the next couple spots that are available, at the end of circuit the beginning of April, they'll take 3 picks for the short list off of the horse list, April 3rd, I believe. So the top 3 horses that are not already with qualified riders, that horse rider combination will be named to the short list. So that's 7. There's a spot available from World Cup finals, the top American, not already on the list, but you have to place in the top 10. And then there's 2 discretionary spots open for Robert and his committee to choose. So those are the 6 spots still available. So I'm hopefully aiming towards, I think my best shot would be from the horse qualifying list. Carlchen in the past has been very consistent. He likes a lot of the events that we'll do down here this winter. So I'm aiming at peaking his performance and raising him up on the list throughout the season. And then from there, hopefully that's our best shot. And then obviously another bonus to qualifying for World Cup finals is there is a spot available if you're good there and in the top 10.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a moment. You know, much like our extraordinary guests on Nobody Told Me, many Air Medcare Network members have their own inspiring stories to share.
They never thought the unthinkable would actually happen to them. But when it did, they were relieved to have their Air Medcare Network, AMCN, membership.
If a medical emergency arises, Air Medcare Network provides members with world-class air transport services to the nearest appropriate hospital with no out-of-pocket expenses.
More and more, insurance fails to cover the full cost of a medical emergency. Secure protection and financial peace of mind for your entire household by joining Air Medcare Network today. Memberships cost as low as $65 a year and cover 38 states.
Plus, right now, as a Nobody Told Me listener, you'll get a $10 Visa gift card with a new 1-year membership.
Visit airmedcarenetwork.com/nobody and use offer code NOBODY.
Again, for a $10 Visa gift card with a new 1-year membership, just visit airmedcarenetwork.com/nobody and use offer code NOBODY.
Tell us more about Carlchen, your horse.
I don't think I could say enough good things about him. I love him. It's been a great partnership for me. Paige and Sarah Zdenek, when I first started riding their horses, it's a horse we got as a 5-year-old, really aiming to go a couple different directions. We didn't know if it would be a horse that we just put some work into and resold, if he would be one that I would work with while Sarah was in business school, and then it would turn into her amateur horse. I think really the lowest option would be if it would be a long-term horse to turn into one for me to compete. So, like I said, we got him as a young one. His 5- and 6-year-old year, he did well in young jumper classes. His 7-year-old year, I think, was the most we really considered selling him. A couple people had tried him. Things didn't really line up on what we were wanting price-wise and what they were willing to do. So we kept going, and then that's really kind of when he was hitting a pivotal point where he was looking like he had a lot of promise, but we really wanted to do it right. He's a very hot horse, so we tried to really monitor what we did from like his mid-7-year-old year and all the way through his 8-year-old year to really bring him along correctly and not rush the system, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then coming into his 9-year-old years when he really started hitting a good stride. I think it really paid off to take that 1.5 years quiet with our program with him. Mm-hmm. And Paige was at a point too, at that point she was changing her trajectory a little bit. She had gotten divorced and was refocusing on what she wanted to do. She competes herself in the adult and the 3-3 amateur hunters, so she was wanting to not travel as much, and with doing that she didn't really know what she wanted to do. She was willing to stay a part of Carlchen, but she didn't want to really push it to the next expense level and have him be competing in FEI. It can be a hardship, and if you don't have a horse, you're never guaranteed that the horse will pay for itself. So mm-hmm. It's a big expense to take on. So she was willing at that point to work out a partnership with me and her. So his 9-year-old year, we partnered into the horse, and that's the first time we did FEI with him, was that winter circuit. He did his first 2-star. Coming out of WEF, we went to Kentucky where we based for the summer, and he did his first 3-star, and he ended up winning the Grand Prix. And from there, I feel like every 6 months I set a goal for him, what our next phase of his career and my career will be, and he just keeps hitting that mark and exceeding it for me.
Mm-hmm. And for people who are listening who are maybe not horse people, what is it about the relationship that you have with him that's different than what you have with other horses?
I think, like I said, we got him as a young horse, so I feel like me being there for every step of his career,
every milestone.
from a young horse has really helped. We know each other so well at this point, and I think just because the two of us, we've hit good marks in our career together, and so far we haven't found, I guess, a hardship that we take a kick back. Like, yeah. Obviously we don't always have a great class, whether it's him, whether it's me, or just not our day, but I think we just have a good relationship and a good understanding of each other, that when he's a little weak, I can be there for him, and vice versa. And I think just moving each class, we have a good partnership to hit the next step.
What do you do to prepare yourself mentally and physically for a year like this?
I think that's an important question. I think for a long time, people just thought about the horses' fitness in the program and keeping them in good shape. But I think it's become such a physical demand on the horses nowadays and on the riders. And we're both trying to keep a long career. Horses are going a lot longer than they used to. A lot of riders are riding a lot longer than they used to at very top levels. So for myself as a rider, my fitness is important. It's important for me to be fit for Carlchen. And I think really just planning a day-to-day routine is the most basic importance you can have, so that it can back you up in the ring.
And obviously you're not going to feel your best mentally every time you go in the ring. Like maybe you had a bad warm-up and you don't really want to go in the ring, but you have to because your next step. What do you do to overcome any doubts that you have?
For me, I really just try to focus on how I feel that day, what Carlchen is giving me that day, and how to best bring out a good result in the ring. Like you said, it's not always going to be the same every day, whether it's me, whether it's the horse. It's two different relationships that need to come together to have a good day. So for me, I just really try to focus in on what is going to be the best for that particular day, because it's not always going to be the same.
And how have you dealt with disappointments along the way? I mean, you can't get to where you are at this level without having had some times in the ring that things didn't go your way. You didn't win. How do you deal with disappointments?
Really, I try to, everybody says, shrug it off. It happens to all of us. But as a competitive person, and especially with the last couple years with what my focus and my goals are, it's hard to not dwell on it, for sure. But all you can really do is pick yourself up, back to the drawing board, back to the basics, because that's what's has gotten myself or any rider, any horse to where we are. And that's important to not miss out on the small details. So if I don't have a great result, or I don't have a great show, I go home, I kick myself a little bit quietly. And I just try to get back to my basics so that I can refocus to what I need to be doing to get back to where I was.
And what words of wisdom do you offer to your clients? Because you have amateur clients. What do you say to them if they're a little nervous?
I just try to focus them in on what they can do in or out of the ring. I was just actually giving a lesson to a really great lady that started riding with us, and she's had some really good lessons this week. And today, her daughter showed this morning. It's not great weather here in Wellington today. The rain was rolling in, and she came out, I think, a little flustered and a little rushed, and everything was just not starting off great in the lesson. And I told her, hey, stop, take a breath. Like I said to myself a minute ago, back to basics. You've had 3 good lessons this week. Today isn't going your way. Stop, think. If it's not going your way, what can you start with yourself to get the horse on the right path? Because the horse, they have good intuition. They can read if it's an off day with us. So anytime, and even for myself, if I feel like something's not going right, okay, take a breath. What can I do for myself to translate that into the horse to make this get back on the right rails?
The Palm Beach Masters Series is equestrian sport at its finest, and Nobody Told Me is proud to be a media partner of the Palm Beach Masters Series.
The world's best show jumping athletes have been gathering at Deer Ridge Farms in Wellington, Florida since late January.
History is being made with the world's top-ranked horses and riders competing at 3 world-class events: the World Cup, Nations Cup, and Palm Beach Open.
The stakes are heightened with tickets to the Olympic Games on the line. Wave your flag and cheer on your nation.
Get to know the only sport where men and women compete as equals. Experience the incredible partnerships between riders and their horses.
It's all happening at Deer Ridge Farms, a picturesque setting in the heart of South Florida.
And you can watch wall-to-wall coverage of the 2020 Palm Beach Masters Series online.
Visit palmbeachmasters.com from March 10th to 15th and be part of the action.
What advice would you have for young riders, for people who are coming up and maybe are not in a zone that has a lot of competition? Maybe they don't have a lot of money. Maybe there aren't a lot of really good trainers around where they are. How do you go from kind of being nowhere to being
where you are?
Well, I think first you have to kind of make that commitment and that decision. Is this something you want to do well at and have a good time? Or is this really your passion? Is this something you really want to maybe turn your life around to put a lot of work and energy towards? Because it's two very big things. There's a lot of ways to do this sport, a lot of levels to do it at. And if it's really your passion and your drive, you may need to change a lot of things with your life. You may need to make some phone calls and take some risk and some opportunity to step outside, to go be a working student, to find a job for the winter or for the summer with a trainer that might be on the other coast. And it's a lot of time and a lot of effort, but that's the best way you're going to push yourself beyond, if you're in a limited area or in limited finances, which a lot of people are. I certainly was. It's the best way, I think, for yourself to make that decision on if this is if it's really worth your effort to push beyond where you're at and what you're doing. If it's a big enough passion, that's might be what you need to do.
And then it's fine with a lot of trainers if you really want to work with them and help them out and learn from them. I mean, it's fine to contact them, isn't it? To contact them directly?
Absolutely. And I've been asked a lot, what would you do differently if you had it over to do again? And I think that's the biggest thing I would say. Everybody's gonna, look back and say, oh, I should have done that, or I could have done this. For me, I like what I've done because it's gotten me to where I am. Everything happens when it happens for a reason. But I think the only thing I really would have done differently, really, I am actually quite shy. So I think for me, there were maybe some opportunities or some chances that I didn't try for earlier, because I didn't think I should or I could. But there's a lot of great people in this industry at all levels. There's a lot of people that are willing to, whether it's just a phone call to give you some advice or tell you about their experience, or to take that chance and maybe give you a shot to be a working student or to give you a job. And those are things that I maybe would have just done earlier. Maybe not different, but I would have done it earlier and pushed myself to get out of my comfort zone sooner.
What do you look for in a horse when you're sizing one up for yourself or for a client? What are the things you look for, and what are the things that you really look out for? What would you walk away from?
I think it's a couple different things. It would depend on what you're looking at the time, because you're maybe always shopping for a different level. Recently, we've gotten a couple good amateur horses. The last one I got, actually, I wasn't even looking at that horse at the time. I was over looking for a horse for myself and looking for a young jumper, and I was looking for an amateur hunter. And I was schooling a horse for a friend just because I had some free time, and everything fell into place. It was a fantastic feeling with the horse. It, was willing. It didn't jump too hard. It didn't mind a mistake. And we had a client that had said that they would maybe look for one for themselves, and just by chance we happened to find it. So we really lucked into that one. But when I'm looking for myself, a lot of people ask me with Carlchen, what makes him special? For me, his most special feature is his attitude and desire at the ring. I feel like he walks in the ring wanting to be as competitive as I want to be. So that's hard to get a sense of a horse just when you're trying it for 1 to 3 times in a trial. But for me, I try to look for a willingness for what I'm asking and what the horse wants to give me. I think that's a really easy thing to feel within a ride or two on how experienced or inexperienced the horse will be, but how willing is it to do what you're asking it to do. And I also like to see, I'm okay with mistakes when you're trying one, but I want to see if the horse is going to learn from that mistake within the time period that I'm sitting on it.
Mm-hmm. And we are at your beautiful farm in Wellington right now, and something you can't miss here are your amazing miniature horses, and we would love to hear more about the Peeps Foundation that you started up, and just how that came about.
So it really just happened by chance. Our first summer basing in Kentucky, we happened upon a field that was near a friend's farm. It was full of miniature horses that looked cute in passing. We kept saying throughout a couple weeks, we need to stop, but we always had a trailer with us. And then one day out of convenience, we were near there for lunch, so we were like, we just have the car, let's drive by. And like I said, from outward appearances just passing, it looked like a field full of cute miniature horses. In close appearances, it was a field full of basically abandoned and abused animals. They were starving to death. They were in horrible condition. Everybody thinks of, Kentucky being lush and beautiful and rolling grass fields. And it was a 30-acre farm full of dirt and weeds and no nutrients, no water once you got close enough. There were actually 2 minis that were dead. So we had contacted the local authorities and the ASPCA, and because of red tape and timing, it took them days, and some others died, and we didn't really know what was happening, so we actually just left a note for the owner finally about, being interested in possibly some companion minis for our show jumpers. He got right back to us. We went over, and semi-long story short, we walked away with about 22, and just from friends in the community, and a horse show was going on at the horse park. People knew that we had them. So once our vets had deemed them healthy enough and we got them wormed and feet trimmed, some of our friends from other states that were there showing took some home with them. So we actually were stupid and went back and got more.
22 or smart. I think it's smart.
Yeah. So we went back and got some more and did the same thing, got them healthy, got them some homes. And then from there, it just really snowballed. Josh Dolan, who does the foundation and the show jumpers with me, he had some minis growing up. I had never really been around them. And it just really snowballed from there. We, over the next few months, got some more from that field. We found a couple more other places and got them healthy and got them homes. And then I think it was later that winter. So that was the summer of 2015. I think 2014, the winter of 2015. Because of Josh, really, he pushed. He's like, let's do this for real. So we became a 501c3, and now find them all over there. And I never knew there were this many minis in the world.
Are they all dwarf minis?
So initially we started with, this initial field were all miniatures, except for Peeps. She was a full. Peeps is who we named the foundation after. But she was the only dwarf in that field. And even Josh, he knew a little bit about dwarfism in the miniature horses, but had never had one. So we learned a little bit along the way, and in now the few years we've been doing it, we've gotten a lot more knowledge about dwarfs. So now we do find both, and a lot of what we do now as far as the rescuing and rehoming are the miniature horses. And we've phased a chapter of our foundation into what we call the Sanctuary, which is more geared towards the dwarfs. They have a lot more special needs. A lot of the special farrier work that we do, that Josh actually does a lot of it himself now with the glue-on extensions, and we both do the trimming. That's all really geared towards the dwarfs. And there's a lot more health issues and a lot more farrier issues that go into the dwarfs. So that's why we started the Sanctuary because a lot of people want to adopt and help them, but they don't maybe have the capability or the vet help or the readiness of their farrier to be able to do it. So we keep the dwarves around a lot longer or more permanently because they need constant help. But in the almost 5 years of doing the foundation, we've rehomed close to 500.
Wow.
And like I said, I didn't even know there were that many in the world, let alone that many that needed help.
What do people typically want to adopt them for?
A lot of people that know us through the horse show world, they want to adopt them as companion animals or a little bit of a mascot for their show barn or just even their barn at home. Some people have geared them towards maybe not all for people, but for their animals, more of a companion or I guess even a rehab partner, because they're a lot quieter than turning them out with another horse. But a lot of people have been contacting us recently about gearing them towards some rehab with people.
I have a question. What is your nobody told me lesson in terms of what is it that nobody told you about? First of all, I guess you probably have a couple of them. But what's your nobody told me lesson about riding, and then what's your nobody told me lesson about working with the miniatures?
I think as far as riding, I would say nobody told me the commitment it really takes to gear your life towards this. I love it. I wouldn't change it, but you know, as a kid, you watch on TV and you just think, wow, like, yeah, that's what I want to do. But it's a lifestyle. You're taking care of an animal that can't care for itself in the capacity that we ask them to live in. And it's a 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
You have to be on call.
Focused for a living animal that gives us so much. So I would say that I didn't know, nobody told me that it would be an entire lifestyle geared towards it. And in our most recent conversation a few minutes ago, nobody told me that my life was going to be geared partially towards miniature horses.
Yeah. What misconceptions do you think people have about the minis? Because they look at them and they see these minis, especially the dwarves, they look like little dogs.
Absolutely. And we get that a lot. You know, we try to really do a proper screening. It's hard because a lot of people don't understand we're running a business with our hunter jumpers, and the minis, it's really a side passion. Like we're trying to make it self-sustaining, but it's a lot of money and a lot of time that we're putting into it after hours from our regular day job. But I think the biggest misconception is, like you said, they are so cute. People want to adopt and we want the really small ones. We want the dwarfs. We can care for them. And it's hard. Even a lot of vets and a lot of farriers with very good people that we've even adopted a couple dwarfs that we've really had to step in and they've left in good condition, but we've had to have phone calls or Skype calls with farriers and with the vets about better care because it takes a lot more than people think. It's a lot of people that have surrendered them to us have gotten them at an exotic sale because I'd love to have a horse. It's small. It'll be easy to keep. But the minis have the exact same health issues and health needs as a regular horse with their diet, with their feet, with vet work, with vaccinations that people, unless you're in horses, don't really understand. So that's hard to get educated. And then with the dwarfs, it's a whole nother host of health issues and really the biggest problem we have a lot of people that'll contact us now wanting us to help them with their dwarfs with their feet because the feet become a big issue when they're young, and if you don't have proper foot care, proper trimming, and in some cases some glue extensions or even some glue on shoes to help support them. I'm sure anybody that does follow us with our Instagram or our Facebook, you can see a lot of the transformations with the ones with very crooked legs.
It's amazing. It's amazing just looking at the before and afters. I could look at them all day.
It's shocking what you can do, but really what I think a lot of people don't understand is you have to do that early enough in their life because when they live like that too long, the ligaments can't support the joints, so the joints roll over and start growing crooked, and once they fuse, that leg is crooked. You're not fixing that. So a lot of what we do, I would say mostly are a year and a half or under. We've been lucky in some cases where they're even 3 or 4, and we've gotten them much straighter feet to support their body. But it's a lot of work and a lot of commitment. And we've been lucky enough that we've had some great farriers and great vets that have done pro bono work or have given us breaks. But a great farrier, Curtis Burns, who does very good racehorses, very good show jumpers. He invented the Polyflex glue-on shoe. He taught Josh so much about trimming and about the glue extensions that now Josh is able to do a lot of that himself. And that's been a huge financial save for us. But if you're not able to do that, it's expensive. And that's where I think a lot of people can't keep up with it, even though you have a passion for it, you want to help the animal. But it needs to become about the animal, not about if you think you can afford it or if you think you're doing it best. You need to make sure you're doing it properly or find somebody that can do it.
Alex, how can people find out more information about the Peeps Foundation and also about you?
So you can check out I think our best way nowadays is through social media. Our business is Mad Season LLC, so you can find us on Instagram. Josh and I both have Instagram and Facebook, so that we love to keep people updated on what we're doing with our careers, with the hunters and jumpers. And check us out on Facebook for the foundation at the Peeps Foundation, and then on Instagram it's called My Little Peepers. And anybody that has any questions, we love to hear from you. Reach out through our websites as well, the peepsfoundation.org or madseasonllc.com, and ask questions. We'd love to hear from you.
Oh my gosh, well, it's been amazing to talk to you, and we're going to be cheering you on in your bid for World Cup and the Olympics this year, and people can watch you as well on the live stream for Palm Beach Masters throughout the series. Is that right? Yeah,
we'll be there. I'm not going to be there the Nations Cup week, but then I plan to do the 5-star later in circuit, and it is, if you're not here in Florida, it's a fantastic show to watch on the live stream. It's a beautiful field. The Jacobs family do an excellent job. And, it's really a unique venue in America. It's a little more of a European feel. It's a bit of a boutique horse show. They only allow around 300 to 400 competitors at each show. And it's at their private farm. And you don't get that in North America a lot these days, where somebody will open up their private farm for us to come in and stomp around for a whole week.
I was going to say destroy the footing.
Pretty much.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a real kick, and like Laura said, we will be cheering you on.
Well, thank you. I look forward to it, and it was great meeting you guys.
Great to meet you, too.
I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
And you've been listening to Nobody Told Me. Thanks for joining us.